From the back roads and courthouse steps of small-town South Carolina to the late-night studio where the mics never sleep, this is where decisions, rumors, and real stories collide. You're tuned in to the Pot Stirrer Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, local issues, no fluff.
Welcome into this hot Monday evening, everyone. Welcome into the Pot Stirrer Podcast with yours truly, Jazzy Jeff. I think you by now know what we do around here. We talk with local government, and we do a whole lot of other wonderful things to bring a whole bunch of stuff to light. And this evening, we're turning our attention to the Oconee County government and also the election that's coming up in 2026, this coming November. And tonight, we'll join up with William or Bill Bull, the Republican candidate for the Oconee County Council District 1. And that area does cover Keowee, Tomasee, Salem, Bountyland, too. Current District 1 council member John Elliott is not seeking another term. So Bill Bull is the Republican candidate. And, of course, Democratic challenger John J.B. Brubacher is also running for the seat in the November 3rd general election. So we will get to Mr. Bull here in just a few moments. Tonight, let's talk about and get things set up, what's coming up here with the headlines around the Golden Corner. First of all, coming up tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., at Oconee County Council, the chairman, Matt Durham, which has talked about it on his social media feed, there's going to be an item coming up before the agenda, which is Ordinance 2026-26. It is the protection from mass surveillance. Now, this is scheduled for the first reading. And, folks, of course, this is not a two-paragraph ordinance saying somebody doesn't like cameras. It's pretty extensive. And tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, we will be continuing to follow that news out of Oconee County. Again, the flock cameras, they're definitely in the talk and the conversation. And coming up, we'll even ask Bill what he thinks about the flock cameras. Headline number 2, the Oconee County Courthouse. Well, we've had this conversation for many, many years. And let me just, for the record, the poor girl has seen better days. Of course, we go back to the mid-2000s when we built the new courthouse, and there set the old one for many, many years. And there is a proposal dealing with that former historic Oconee County Courthouse in Walhalla. Under the proposed ordinance, the county could market the property for up to $100,000 and attempt to find a private developer rather than move directly towards the demolition, which the county estimates could cost up for about $3 million. But, of course, the other number you'll want to remember is the proposal allows for $1.1 million redevelopment incentive if the purchaser completes the required rehabilitation benchmarks. So we'll have a little talk about that. The other thing, too, is the sales tax referendum. They're going to be on the ballot, and it's going to be up to you, the citizens, to make that decision and determination. Walhalla approved to go into the ballot. Westminster, Seneca, West Union, Salem, all our local municipalities. It's going to be on the referendum coming up November. You're going to have to make the decision if you want to pay a 1% sales tax on anything that you buy within the municipalities. Well, with that being said, let's get into tonight's main conversation and bring over here on the guest telephone, or actually guest camera. Let's welcome in William Bull, and good evening, Mr. Bull. I appreciate you joining us here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Are you ready to get involved in Oconee County politics?
I have no idea if I'm ready, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Well, go ahead as we start the conversation this evening. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your background, and your connection to Oconee County.
Well, as you can tell by my voice, I'm not from around here. I talk a little funny.
No, say it isn't so.
I started out as a Yankee in Philadelphia. I lived in that area for about 30 years. And then I took a job in the Washington, D.C. area. I lived there for about 30 years. That's where I met my bride. And now I'm down here, and I'm hoping I got another 30 years left in me.
Well, I hope you do, too.
I bought my house. I'm one of them rich folk that live on the lake.
Yeah.
I bought my house in 2012. My father had passed away and left me a couple dollars. It was burning a hole in my pocket, and I did some shopping online, and I kind of fell in love with Lake Keowee. So my wife and I came down here, took a look at it. We shopped around. We looked at a few other places, and we kept coming back to here. So we bought in 2012, and I moved full time in 2017. So I've been here about 8 years now.
What have you seen that, by moving here in 2017, what are some of the great things that you've seen around these parts other than just Lake Kiwi?
Well, of course, we had COVID in there, which was not fun.
Oh, no.
But the people here are very friendly, for the most part. Very helpful, very friendly. So that's been one of the pleasures of coming here.
Why do you want to run for county council?
Well, during the 2020 election, that kind of got disappeared.
Yeah, sideways.
Went sideways. Sideways is a good word. There was a lot of talk about what can you do. Well, one of the things to do was to run for office. I was never a particularly good student, so I didn't think the school board was up my area. Mm-hmm. I did attend a lot of about a year's worth of sewer authority meetings, maybe a little more.
Did you learn anything?
I learned that it's not a county sewer authority; it's a 3-town sewer authority,
right?
And they make decisions for the 3 towns, not for the county.
Correct.
And they did something that came back to bite them a little bit. They decided to take some of the excess money that was in the sewer authority, and they said that they were going to use it to fix their infrastructure. Mm-hmm. But they didn't codify that in any kind of language. I went back and I looked at the transcripts of all the meetings, and nowhere did they ever say that they were actually going to do that.
You're talking about in the early 2020s, yeah. 21, when the big topic of conversation was about the rebates, that the municipalities were going to get the money back from the joint regional sewer.
Right.
And then a year past that, then we had to turn around and go up on the cost for sewer. I remember
because
that.
Because they had a spill, and and DHEC got involved, and they said, well, you really need to do some infrastructure, main system infrastructure upgrades. And oh, by the way, it's going to cost a lot of money, and you're going to need to get a bond for that. And oh, by the way, you don't have enough money on the books to get the bonds because they had taken the money to use in their own little cities. So yeah, that was kind of and I live in Kiwi, mm-hmm.
And
we have our own sewer system that we pay
mm-hmm.
A lot more than
absolutely
a lot more than the locals do.
Yep.
So I decided that at that point I was just beating my head against the wall. I didn't have a dog in that fight, so to speak.
Well, it goes on to our next question. Of course, District 1 does include the communities of Salem, Tomasi, and the Lake Kiwi area along with Bountyland. What do you believe is the number one issue facing District 1 right now? Could it be development, roads, taxes, emergency services, preserving rural land, something else, or all of the above?
I think all the above. I think the people that live here all their lives like it just the way it is. They don't want big changes. There are certainly some upgrades that I'm sure that they would love to have. They certainly don't want to be taxed any more than they are. And it's hard to upgrade things without reaching into people's pockets.
Right.
I like the ruralness of it. I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. At that time it was farmland. It's all housing developments now where I grew up, but at the time I grew up, it was a lot of farmland. So this kind of feels like home.
What would you do now that John Elliott has decided he's not running and you're going to run to replace John? What would, for the folks that are watching or listening, what would a Bill Bull District 1 look differently? Is there anything that would look differently than compared to John Elliott's years on county council?
I have to get some feedback from the mayor and others about what they'd like to see happen. I admit that I've spent the last couple of years pleasantly looking out my window at the lake. I haven't really gotten involved. The last year or so, because I've decided to do this, I've gotten more involved with the Republican Party and some of the things that they talk about. Bill Bull has certain strengths. He spent many years doing return on investments. I was with the Postal Service for 34 years. And at one point, I spent, I think, 10 or 12 years doing return on investment for projects over $10 million. And I also spent a significant amount of time in facility management. I have a certificate in facility management from George Mason University. And so I've got those two strengths. So right now, I think the council has, I think, taken care of the issues with the budget numbers not being as accurate as they could or should be.
Well, October the 15th is going to be a great day. We're actually going to hear more concerning the physical audit or the forensic audit that was done from the folks in Atlanta. And I think there's going to be a lot of questions answered. And again, with you coming in here, you're learning a whole lot more about how we got in that mess. And again, as I've said on this podcast, for the prior to 2018, the county administrator was a certain individual that is now the city administrator of a certain town in Oconee County. And I think we're about to find out a whole lot more.
Oh,
so Scott Mulder
okay.
was actually the county administrator.
Years ago, yes.
Yes.
And
he was 24 hours from being let go at the county when he mysteriously got the job in the city of Seneca. And for the last several months, we've all seen what's been going on down there. It has been so much information that we've uncovered and found out. But again, that forensic audit's going to tell a lot. We know some of the information, but I think the puzzles are all going to fit in, and you're going to get your answers as looking as an outsider for your first run in county council. You're going to get to actually see what has been going on within county government. So again, we talk about growth and we talk about development and property rights. And let's admit it, Oconee County is growing. It has grown exponentially since probably 2020, since COVID. You know, you would have thought that with everything being locked down, we would have slowed down, but that didn't happen. It became the opposite because we had so many people wanting to get out of the big cities and get into what we have here, rural, lakeside living. And again, we've watched the residential developments proposed in Oconee County. How much growth is too much growth?
Well, the infrastructure has to be able to handle the growth. Now, the developers are required, over a certain size development, they're required to do certain studies about traffic and that sort of thing. I know the fact the sewer has been an area where that's held back a lot of development. So that could, with expansion of the sewer pipeline, that might bring more growth than you'd expect. Hopefully we can keep it away from the lake area.
Well, you bring up a good point in that with the development and stuff, right now our capacities are getting dangerously close to full capacity. And I'll give you a great example of that. We have Sewer South. Even though there's really nothing running down in Sewer South right now,
Except
you have
the rest area. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. So you have to take a look at this. We don't have the large, giant corporations even hooked up to Sewer South yet. So again, if you overdevelop up here, how is that going to affect down at 85? And again, you're going to have the meeting of, I call it the poop meets together, because you've got one increase here, but you're not taking into account if you have another increase down at 85. So we do have an issue that's brewing, and this didn't happen overnight. This has been brewing for the last several years. Right. Do you have a plan, or even remotely a plan that could even remotely solve some of this problem?
Well, my understanding is that Duke Power will not let sewer lines cross the lake. So any sewer expansion's got to go around the lake. I would expect that would be
there's
excessive.
one line. Well, there is one line that was built prior to anything that is still here and it's still active. The city of Seneca has a sewer line under Lake Kiwi that goes to Port Santorini.
Okay.
And nobody even knew anything about that until all of a sudden we were digging into the South Cove development that was supposed to go up there at South Cove. And all of a sudden we find out, wait a minute, there's a sewer line under Kiwi. Nobody knew that until that all came out, that's how Port Santorini has the sewer. But again, sewer is a big part of our growth. We talk about the Neary project, 5,000 different homes potentially, and in some point in my lifetime, that's going to be developed.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to
stop it.
You can't stop it.
It's
you
going
can
to be hard to
slow
stop
it down, and you can throw some roadblocks in there, but somebody's already spent, what, $200 million for the property?
It was close to $12 million.
$12 million?
They spent $12 million for the property.
I got some bad info.
Yeah, it was $12 million is what they originally fit, and that's just a couple of years ago when this current developer, the gentleman now that's been in the news and stuff, but they brought it from a local group for $12 billion. Okay. But not only that development that you also have a development on down past Neary that John Elliott had to work on trying to fight, that the Kiwi Development Corporation, there's a bunch of property right there off of 130 past the Neary Dam that borders the Lake Hartwell or the Kiwi River. That's already come up in the conversation. So again, just in that little corner of your district, you're looking at a whole new town could be coming up out of the ground.
Yeah. Like I said, you can't stop it, but hopefully we can put some things into place to make it more palatable to everybody.
So again,
green space and that kind of thing.
The development moratorium that we're in right now, you pretty much agree with the development moratorium until we can have the checks and balances that the Planning Commission is supposed to be coming up with.
I kind of feel sorry for some of the people that were, because I was at that meeting and I heard some of the people, express, well, we've already invested a lot of money here, and you're gonna stop us, and I can appreciate that problem, but I think overall it was a good idea to have the moratorium. Maybe there should have been a couple of exceptions for people that had already spent a significant amount of money to do their development.
I was thinking, and I agree with you there, I was thinking if somebody had already been further along in the process. Now, again, I wouldn't say if somebody just come in and say, well, I want to develop this, but if someone's already paid the money for the development, they've got the plans, and they've started the procedure, then they probably should have been left alone to go ahead and continue. Yeah. So here's in this particular area in Salem and Tomasi, you're going to get a lot of this question. And again, I don't even know if there's a way you can answer it, but we're going to attempt this. Here comes the philosophical fight. A landowner says, this is my property. I bought it. I should be able to develop it. How do you address that when you get these potential constituents that's going to ask you that question?
Well, I would point to a certain gun range that was shut down, basically. I mean, the individual that owned it gave up and just said, all right, I'm fed up with it. I actually belonged to that gun range. I enjoyed shooting there. I like to shoot, and it was very convenient for me, and I miss it dearly. And the land was open use. I mean, he was perfectly within his rights to do what he was doing, but the neighbors didn't like it. Well, on one hand, you can't say it's my property, I can do with what I want, and then when the guy next door to you opens a gun range or has a pig farm or whatever happens to be unpalatable to you, you can't have it both ways. So therein lies, you're going to have some kind of zoning. I know people here don't want to hear zoning. You don't want to hear zoning, but gosh,
here's the deal.
You got to do something.
But here's the deal. We've grown leaps and bounds compared to what we were 20 or 30 years ago.
Right.
Again,
and with no zoning, you're going to
when we
explode.
didn't 30, 40 years ago, there was nothing. And if you even mention zoning, that could induce a gunfight. You're not going to tell me what you're going to do or what I can do with my property. However, we've got more than what we had 20 or 30 years ago. I mean, Oconee County's pushing 80 plus something thousand people. And as sad as I hate to say it, that rural feel is leaving us. We've got more and more developments, but there has to be a fine line. And again, when you mention this zoning, you're going to have 4 or 5 people going to collectively get up and just, no, you're not going to tell me what to do with my property. However, there should be some checks and balances. And that's something that I think we don't have right now. Had we had some checks and balances and with the zoning, I'm not sure we would be in the situation we are with the development. Because, again, the infrastructure here is, and you know it as well as I do, we've got problems with our infrastructure.
Right.
And it's just getting worse and worse and worse because when you start cramming more developments in here, we're overtaxing what we already have. And we haven't come up with a plan to address all of these issues. It's just like we kick the old beer can down the road and we hope that something would fall in our lap, but it's not. And again, these impacts, what about the requirements for developers to make sure that they toe the line with road improvements, traffic studies, stormwater? That's another big issue that we have here. Emergency access and infrastructure. I mean, do we put a lot of this back on the developers?
I think that's what they're trying to do with the code upgrades that they're working on. I believe that's what is supposed to be happening. I know that from the sewer authority perspective, they have impact fees that are supposed to be paid when you get a new development, and that's supposed to help with new pump houses and that kind of thing. I don't know that the impact fees are enough to really cover all the costs. So,
but would it help a little bit? Because
yes.
the ultimate
does.
thing is, as a taxpayer, I don't want to see taxpayers get saddled and burdened with somebody's development. And too many times we've been down this road before, and I'll give you a perfect example. Down in the southern part of the county, near Clemson, we have an area that had the little tiny houses built. It's on Lake Hartwell. We had a developer that came in and built student housing, and that's just on the tip of Oconee. It's near Clemson, right there at Cherry Road. So previous council years ago, when that was being developed, they gave that developer a blank check. They gave him a $7 million blank check, and that developer turned around and saddled Oconee County with paving their parking lots. That's a part of that deal. So we have to maintain student housing parking lot on the county dime.
Yeah, that's not good.
But that's some of the things that's happened before where we've given away and we've never got anything else in return. Speaking of return, I want to talk money here.
Okay.
And you all know about all the things. You've been following it for a few years about the county government. What is your philosophy on property taxes in Oconee? Do you believe county government is spending too much, not spending enough? If you were elected, do you have a plan that you could work with the other 4 to make sure that we're paying the appropriate amount of taxes and not being taxed to death?
Like I said, I'm a return on investment guy, so I would have to dig into things to know. I admit that I'm still drinking from the fire hose. I don't know all the ins and outs of the tax base and where what money goes where and that sort of thing. Certainly, I know coming from Northern Virginia, I appreciate the real estate taxes that I pay here. Not real thrilled with the personal property tax, but it's still better than where I came from.
I could imagine.
I was paying close to $10,000 a year for real estate taxes. Here, I think I'm at $2,500. I think.
Well, one of the great things about our taxes is, as far as I know, we're still the lowest in the state. And when it comes to property taxes, because if you drive across the river to our friends over in Pickens County, it shoots up immediately. But right now in Oconee, we still have the cheapest property taxes. Now, as far as car taxes, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, and I'm trying to help out the county. My wife decided she needed an upgrade, so we've got a new Hyundai Santa Fe that we'll be happy to pay however many thousand the county wants from us.
Oh, goodness
for
gracious.
The privilege of having the car.
Well, the good news is for folks with boats, we're going to go forward for next year. The boat taxes are going to start seeing the reduction in the boat taxes.
Well, that's good because I needed to pay the mechanic to come to my dock to
fix your boat. That's the way it always works. You know, what do they say? Boats are money pits. You just keep throwing them in there.
It's a boat. It's a hole in the water you throw money into. Yeah,
exactly. County government with the budgeting and taxes. How about large reserves for emergency? Government sometimes is guilty of collecting taxpayer money simply to let it sit in the bank account, but what do you think? Having good reserves, good controls, good balances is a good thing?
Certainly, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what's going to happen. So you need to have reserves. And I think right now they probably don't have any because of the issues they've had, and money wasn't where they thought it was. So that's going to have to be rebuilt. Those reserves. Well, what is a good reserve? I don't know. 5%, 10%. I don't know.
Here comes an interesting question, and we were talking about that when we came on the show. So our state legislature come up with a way for municipalities to go after and do the 1 cent sales tax. And have in mind that out of 46 counties, 43 counties already do this. The 3 counties that doesn't is Greenville County, Oconee County, and Beaufort. So what is your thoughts on this sales tax referendum for Oconee, for the municipalities? Do you believe that Oconee County, as far as the cities and the municipalities, they have a revenue problem or a spending priority problem?
Well, they certainly have a revenue problem, but I don't know what they're spending their money on, to be honest with you. Certainly, like Seneca, I don't look at what they're doing. So, I know you have. I know you've been stirring the pot. But
let me just say, for the record, it's all great in theory to come at and say, well, if you approve this, we're going to reduce 55%. We're going to take the first 55% and we're going to allocate it to your city property taxes. Okay, that's great, fine, and well, but it's the after effects of the projects that they're wanting and the historical history of not using what it's supposed to be used for.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
That even though law says that it has to be done this way, I don't trust them.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you.
And again, I think this is a bigger issue that, okay, you're already taxing people to death. The taxes are going up, and but again, this is going to affect Oconee County because people come here and spend money. Even though the county isn't involved in this sales referendum and this 1% taxes, you have a lot of tourism that is going to be affected. And I guarantee you somebody's going to complain. And you'll find out there's another issue that certain people don't understand between the difference between county council and city council. They associate you. They think you can solve everybody's problems, and that's coming. But I wanted to get your take on how you feel about it.
Some would argue that you need a bigger tax base, which means you have to grow, which means you have more utilities and public things that you got to fire services and that kind of thing. So it's a double-edged sword. I think we shouldn't be giving too many things away to developers. They're going to come in and develop, and
the developer should be held to the standard here. To they're making millions and millions. Right. They should be able to contribute back to this and not the burden of the taxpayers.
Right.
If you knew it was going to be used for the correct things, and you knew it was going to be used to reduce the property taxes in which you had to pay if you lived in a municipality, then the answer would be yes. However, this is only for several years, and then it has to be revoted again. So 4 or 5 years later, people say, well, I don't want to pay that 1% no more. So then you got even a bigger problem. If the citizens don't approve it,
then you got to go back to, you got to get your money from somewhere.
You got to get your money from somewhere. Yeah. Again, when it comes to stuff like this, I just think we're way beyond. We need to have a different game plan.
Now, Florida does it with tourists.
Yeah.
That's how they get their money. That's how they don't have any property tax or income tax. Because they they stick it to tourists and they have a big tourist base.
And Oconee now, the tide has changed.
Yeah.
We've got a bigger tourist base than we've ever had because people are coming here for Jocassee, Kiwi, the mountains, and parts of Lake Hartwell. We're making tons of money over the tourism part of folks coming into Oconee. All right. Well, now here comes the even bigger question, and it has been everywhere. Matter of fact, our sheriff has talked about it coming up Tuesday night. There's even a new ordinance about it. We're getting on the issue that could potentially create some fireworks Tuesday night. From all points that I have seen, everybody seems to feel this way. It's about the flock cameras or the automatic license plate readers, and, of course, Ordinance 26-26. How about that? 2026-26. So law enforcement supporters say the systems like the flock cameras are a benefit to help find missing people, stolen vehicles, criminal suspects. And, of course, we're seeing now privacy advocates say the problem isn't the photograph of the license plates, but we actually have the searchable history, and we're having even law enforcement use these things, which I would probably tend to say that they're illegal uses of these flock cameras. Do you believe, if you were elected in your own county council and you're having to deal with this issue right now, do you believe the automatic license plate readers are legitimate law enforcement tools, or do you consider them mass surveillance?
I happened to listen to David Stumbo the other night. He was in town the other night.
He was at the Republican Party meeting.
Correct. Yeah, at the Legion Hall.
Yep.
And he agrees that they're an excellent tool for law enforcement. He also agrees that there's potential for misuse, and that there have been some officers who've been let go because were tracking their girlfriends or their boyfriends through the flock cameras. So, but he also pointed out that there's been a number of instances where they've been able to recover stolen vehicles quickly. Murder suspects have been apprehended quickly. So there is the potential for a lot of good, but there is the potential for a lot of misuse. Now, if one party is in power and we think everything's wonderful, if another party gets in power, then you have the big brother aspect. So, especially, I admit that I watch a little too many Facebook reels, and they've got a lot of images now where they've got flock cameras looking at gun ranges. Now, I don't know if that's AI created or what, but that kind of thing is ridiculous. I certainly would not care for that. But technology, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Technology's here to stay. You're going to have to put rules on how they're using. I think right now the data is kept for 30 days. I think there's a proposal to only hold the data for 8 days. So how do you make sure that really is happening?
Well, I think that's the $1 million question right there is who has access? How is it going to be, I guess from a citizen's aspect, who's going to be in charge? Who is going to make sure that if it goes to 8 days, after the 8 days, how they're going to know that stuff is actually gone? The biggest issue we've got of all of this is that the Constitution is not caught up with technology. And that's part of the bigger issue. At some point, something's got to be worked out that we need checks and balances, but it also needs to be looked at from the Constitution route because, again...
Well, I think the Supreme Court has looked at it, and they've said that it doesn't violate Article 4. So, that it's images taken on a public highway, and you have no expectation of privacy when you're on a public highway.
Even when you go into a Walmart or a Target or even walking down the streets in certain cities, they've got surveillance.
Right.
But again, all of what this here is about the flock cameras. So if you had checks and balances, and see, here's the thing: would make me feel a little bit better if I knew that each individual jurisdiction and they were the only ones to have access to these cameras, I think I probably would feel a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's not that way.
It's not that way. It's a national database where everything is sent to one location, and that, I think, is where the problem and the distinction occurs of where I actually have the problem.
Yeah, well, Stumbo also made I think it was him that gave an example of an illegal happening here in Oconee, and the perpetrator was tracked to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're only able to look at your cameras, then you would not know that he went to Tennessee. So,
well, again, we're going to find out, because I think this problem is not going away. It's getting worse and worse. And until there comes a way to fix this, I think this is what we're going to be looking at. Do you think, though, that this is a good idea? And honestly, do you think all of these ordinances here is a good idea?
I'm a bit of a libertarian. I think less is better.
Less government intrusion into our lives.
Right. Yeah, less is better. Unfortunately, the world we live in.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, I think we sometimes paint ourselves into a corner sometimes. So I'm, as far as the flock, the flock cameras, I'm still chewing on that one.
And trying to get the information.
Right.
Good.
And what's real and what's being told to me via Facebook or wherever.
Well, we're going to move on here to our next segment of questions, and this one always gets a lot of people. They always talk about transparency and government power. That goes into about the leaning libertarian, what we were talking about right here.
Okay.
So this is something that's frustrated our citizens for quite a long time, particularly with local governments and even prior county councils and county administrators years ago. What does transparency mean to you?
Certainly what's happening with your tax dollars, you should know where your tax money's going. There are times, I understand, when executive sessions are necessary to protect employees and that kind of thing.
Sometimes you have to protect development that's wanting to locate here. If you got a company that's wanting to locate here, sometimes you have to protect those.
Yeah, they don't want their competitors to know.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Yes, so there's that kind of thing. There are certain things that let's the firehouse situation that we had recently.
Corinth Shiloh.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was at that meeting as well, the council meeting, and one side made a good case that, we were told that we would be able to elect our own administrators,
Fire commissioners.
Yeah,
right.
And the county decided, no, we're going to appoint them. Now, I'd like to think if I was on the council, I would have voted the other way. If we made the statement that, hey, after 2 years, you're going to be able to vote your own people in, that's what we should have stuck with. But apparently we didn't do that.
Nope.
So again, that might be something in an executive session, some information that I'm not privy to at this point. So,
well, I think part of the reason that they went this route is the simple fact that there's a lot of things that have come out that the volunteers have created. In other words, the volunteer section, which is the 501c3, should have immediately ended once the commission had been organized, once that vote was taken last November or whenever it was, and they approved the fire district. The 501c3 should have stopped and become the fire tax district. Well, that didn't happen. Everything was still held on to, and then to find out that the volunteers were going out and still raising money, and they were not the fire service provider.
Okay.
There was a whole lot of issues that were boiled in there. So, again,
I was a volunteer fireman in my youth.
Yeah.
When I was in my 20s, I was a volunteer fireman. Did it for about 10 years. So I have a certain amount of compassion for those individuals.
I do too, but I think part of the thing that's happened is we've lost the focus on the volunteers. because we've grown so much. We're not that rural county that we once was, where you got mom and dad and grandpa, they're all in the field and they're planting crops, and then when the fire tones go out, they can drop what they're doing to go run calls.
Yep.
And again, that don't happen. So that was one of the things, one of the reasons I wanted to fill in. We talked about executive sessions, and I don't believe this to be the case. I don't think Oconee County Council relies too heavily on executive session. The most times that I've ever seen is for employment, and if there is a business that wanting to come here and they're looking for some sort of agreement. Again, I don't think that our county council has done that. Now, I'm not going to say prior to that we didn't have an issue, because we have had some things to be questioned before, but the most part is making sure that if you're elected, would you be able to willing to meet with your constituents, like have maybe a town hall meeting for this district over here, choose a location and have a conversation with the people? I
think I have to, because I admittedly I'm a lake person, and I haven't ventured up into Tomassi and up here, even up into Salem here. I drive through on my way up north, but I came during the fireworks, but I didn't go around pumping people's hands. I should have, I guess.
Should have kissed babies.
I should have kissed some babies. there were plenty of them running around. But hey, yeah, I need to get to know the people in the community more. I wouldn't have a problem with town hall. Let people tell me what they feel and think.
It's kind of like when John Elliott, when his first run, when he ran for county council, I feel like he was in actually the same, kind of like in the same situation you are, trying to learn, get anything. And then again, what made John unique, John came up here like breakfasts and things like that. I believe that this area for Salem and Tomassi, they just want to know that they've got a representative if there's an issue that, you can sit down with your constituents. And I think once we can cross that threshold of you getting to meet these people and getting folks to understand, hey, look, this is what I believe in, and I want to make sure that when I go and when I want to make sure that you're representative. I don't want you to pay these outlandish taxes, but I do want you to live safe and comfortable in your area. And I think that right there is one of the great things that reaching across the aisle and making sure people understand.
Yeah. Well, I've put some advertising on my truck, so.
And we're doing the show here.
We're doing a show here.
So yeah, that's one great thing. If you see me
at the trash transfer station, by all means, say hello.
Have you even thought about this, maybe when you're elected come November and you get on county council, do you have any one or two things that you would just like to see done hitting the ground in January that you'd like to see?
I'm a facilities guy. I don't know that anybody's really looked at all the facility buildings that Oconee County owns. I'd like to dig into that. That's because, again, it's my background.
We have a lot of buildings and facilities throughout the county, and not only Walhalla, but we have some in Seneca, and you've got a bunch of buildings and stuff.
I'd like to establish. They need to do a building inspection once a year. I don't know if that's happening. I know that when I go to the administration building and I walk by, there's a cover off of a pull box, a wire pull box, and the spiders are enjoying themselves in there, and I imagine palmetto bugs are having a good time in there.
That was an old school. That was an elementary school that was built in 1955, 56, I think.
Okay, well, somebody should still put a cover on the darn thing.
Yeah.
Because those kind of things bother me. I walk by and see those things. When we had a political event at South Cove, I happened to notice that the air conditioning condenser coil was starting to get matted. That's the kind of thing that somebody should be looking at once a year, and apparently they're not. The building is nice and clean, it looks good, but these maintenance things.
Do you remember what the building was before all the renovations? It was stuck back in the 1970s.
It probably was.
It was old wood that had been thrown together because South Cove just entered. South Cove is going on 60 years old. 1972 is when it first opened in that rec building. But yeah, I mean, again, that's been a part of the problem for years. A lot of our buildings never were maintained. It's just like the courthouse. You bring up a great point. The courthouse is the same thing. When the moment they built the new courthouse, the old courthouse was a forethought, and it just sat there. And it sat there for all these years.
And it just degraded.
And it degraded. And again, I would hope that someone would willing to come in and develop it and redo it. But I have my doubts. We've been down this road before.
Yeah. I thought maybe they could use it for fire service training, but I talked to the chief at down at QE, and he said, nah, he said, there's too many three-letter agencies that won't let you do that anymore.
Yeah, used to years ago you could do it, but not in that one. Well, Bill, is there any final thing you want folks to know about you and your upcoming, election November? You're on the ballot for the Republican Party, running against J.B. Brubacher, who is on the Democrat. He's the challenger for District 1. Anything that folks need to know and to come out and vote for you?
I only expect to do this for 4 years. So people out there that ever thought about doing it, hey, think about it real hard over the next 4 years and put your foot into the race, because I'm not a kid. I don't plan to do this more than 4 years. This was just my way of giving back. Like I said, when I was young, I was a volunteer fireman. I gave back to the community. Now that I'm an older guy, this is a way of giving back to the community. And I'm hopefully that after 4 years, people will say that I left things better than when I found them. So.
Well, that's all you could ask for. All right. Well, there you go. William Bill Bull joined us here, who is the Oconee County Council District 1. He is the candidate that's running to fill. John Elliott is not running this year, and we wish John all the best. John is he's done us very well up here in District 1 representing us, and there's a lot of great things that John has done, and we want to wish him the best. But again, the election coming up in November, and we'll hear more from Mr. Bull here in the next several weeks. We'll have you back on probably about October for a follow-up.
Sounds good.
As we get closer to the election. Okay, now tomorrow night, Oconee County Council meeting. We will carry it live right here on the Pot Stirrer podcast. That's coming up at 6 o'clock. And again, the Mass Surveillance Ordinance. We also have a couple of follow-up right after the council meeting. We're going to talk about, is there $250,000 missing from the Seneca, city of Seneca? I have the answer, and no, there's not. But there is a story there. We'll share that with you coming up tomorrow night. And I think that's all I've got for you here on this Monday night. Try to stay cool if you can. It has been a miserable the last couple of days with temperatures in the upper 90s, around low 100s. I don't want to hear anybody say come December that I'm cold, because I'll take the winter. I can put enough clothes to stay warm in the winter, but you can't take enough clothes to stay cool in the summer. And that is a pot stirrer classic right there. You don't want to see me naked. Anyway, there you go. Have a great Monday evening, and we'll see you tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock, here on the Pot Stirrer Podcast. I'm Jazzy Jeff at jazzyjeffpotstirrer.com.
From the back roads and courthouse steps of small-town South Carolina to the late-night studio where the mics never sleep, this is where decisions, rumors, and real stories collide. You're tuned in to the Pot Stirrer Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, local issues, no fluff.